Welcome back to RX Unscripted with Jen and Shelley. Thanks for joining us for episode 2, Taming, Tears, and Tantrums, the vaccine edition.
If you like our content, make sure to hit like and subscribe and click the bell for more notifications on our upcoming videos. I'm Jen and this is Shelley, and we're moms and pharmacists who are here to take some of the worry out of your family's next vaccination appointment. We know sometimes that going to get an immunization can result in tears, tantrums, and total meltdowns. And that's just the parents sometimes.
True.
So we're here to help give you some practical tips on how you can make this experience a little bit less anxiety-inducing for your entire family.
So we're here, like Jen said, because we have experience not just as pharmacists and vaccinators and immunizers, but also as moms. We've been through this. I've been through this for a number of years with my own kids. I've made some mistakes. I've helped coach parents through maybe not making the same mistakes that I have and making the experience, if not pleasant, at least manageable for your whole family and making it less intimidating. And so we just want to help you with fewer tears when it comes time for your next appointment or your child's next appointment. So, Jen, one of the first things I think that you can do is just try to set the mood. Be calm and confident. And that's not always easy to do. Again, as a mom, sometimes when I'm driving my kids or have been to get their vaccinations in the past, I'd say things like, don't be nervous. And they'll sense my anxiety right away if I say those things. I think another really important thing to do to set the mood is to really be careful with the words that you choose. And don't say words like hurt or words like pain. Even if you're saying this won't hurt, that's actually creating the opposite feeling from what you're intending. And these can be inflammatory words. So talking about things like pressure, even when you're giving the vaccination, but even ahead of time, just avoiding those words like pain are really important. And we maybe just don't even talk about it ahead of time. Sometimes that's the best way to prepare, and it really just depends on your child.
Absolutely. And I think this is a great time with children to start talking about the benefits of vaccination and really using positive language around why we get vaccines. So creating that concept that we do it to protect our family. Perhaps we have a grandparent who is more vulnerable to disease, and so we're doing it to protect grandpa, or we're doing it to keep our family safe and healthy. And by starting to create some of those thoughts and using that sort of language, you focus on why you're doing it and not necessarily on the process itself. So I think it's a really great point about language.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yeah.
So there are some things that we can do as parents that we know will improve the experience for your children. And probably the first one that we want to talk about almost the most is because it can be quite effective, are those distraction techniques to help reduce some of that worry and anxiety that your child might feel around actually getting an injection. So we know that different age groups will need different distraction techniques, but really the key takeaway here for parents is to think about it in advance and customize that distraction technique that might work best for your child. So we'll talk about some of them here, but as you think through, just think what your child would like the most and what would really capture their attention and focus. So in infants, one of the things that's particularly effective for helping reduce those sensations of pain is actually feeding during an immunization. And Shelley, I know we spoke, you actually employed that technique with your children when you were getting their infant immunizations.
I did. I either nursed or bottle fed all 3 of my kids, particularly in the first few months of immunizing. And I think that now I probably do more adult immunizations, but when I talk to parents about thinking about getting their children vaccinated, I definitely, think about those sort of age-appropriate techniques and ask them what works for their child.
Absolutely. And as you get into slightly older children, so toddlers and young children, that really does change, right? So this is one of those instances where technology can truly be a blessing. I know, as a parent, it can really feel like a double-edged sword where you're trying to limit screen time, trying to use it appropriately. But I would say as an immunizer, this is one time where it's really appropriate to use that app or that YouTube video or that that song, that game that your child is really, really, really into, and using that interest in in the screen to distract from the anxiety around getting an immunization. So one thing, unfortunately, we haven't been able to do in my pharmacy this year, but has been historically very effective, is actually using virtual reality goggles, which kind of creates almost a set of blinders that doesn't really allow the child to see the needle itself, but does get them immersed in that distraction of the video or that virtual reality environment. So if families have those and wanted to bring them to the appointment, I would absolutely encourage them to use them in my practice, but unfortunately we just can't provide them right now because we're in a pandemic scenario and they would need to be sanitized and sterilized between each use. But ultimately, by using a little bit of that screen time, you can help take some of that worry out of it. Non-technology strategies for this age group could include things like singing a song together, reading a book, or having a favorite comfort object that will really help comfort the child, by being able to hold on to it during that immunization.
Yeah, Jenny, nothing wrong with 10 minutes of an iPad. And I wish I had iPhones when, at least my oldest was young, but I've used iPads and sometimes I've used books with my daughter now. And I wish they had those virtual reality goggles a few years ago. I would recommend not to watch this YouTube perhaps when you're getting your child immunized, but other YouTube videos would be a great idea.
So we also know, apart from distraction, there's some other ways that you can help give your child back a sense of control over this appointment. So Shelley, can you talk to us a bit about what some of those strategies are?
Yeah, so what parent doesn't have to give choices every single day, right? Jen, you're the mom of a toddler, so, if he just really wants to wear one particular shirt, sometimes you just sort of have to let that go or give choices and say, you can either have the blue shirt or the green shirt, but you cannot wear the t-shirt during minus 20 degree weather. It's not dissimilar and it's pretty intuitive, but I think, again, giving that sense of control back to your child is something that is a good thing to think about and talk about. And, even when you're going into the pharmacy, so it might be Jen's pharmacy or, wherever else you're going, you're giving a Band-Aid to the child. So which Band-Aid is it going to be? Is it going to be the Princess Band-Aid or the Avengers Band-Aid or the blue Band-Aid or the sparkly Band-Aid? And then you get to put the Band-Aid on your parent as well after you're done. So think about what Band-Aid you want to choose. So having the sense of control can be really great for kids. And then of course rewards, right? So again, we don't always want to dangle that carrot every single time a child does anything, but a good time would be when you're getting immunized. So, whether it's an ice cream at the end of the visit or something in the pharmacy that the pharmacist sort of dangles as a reward, nothing wrong with that. And I think for younger children, sort of giving them a job to do. So I really need you to help me by holding this Band-Aid, or I really need you to help me by doing this. Or as you said, Jen, before, this is such an important role you're playing because you getting immunized today helps your grandparents, helps your parents, helps the people around you. It's not just for you. So I think that's, giving a job is really important and giving choices is really important.
Absolutely. I think sometimes part of the anxiety around the whole appointment is feeling like you're powerless, feeling like you're being restrained, and this is something you're being forced to do. So if you have a bit of agency in that, it really does reduce that feeling of fear, powerlessness, and anxiety. So, when it comes to other strategies, I know children often have a fear of the pain of the immunization itself. What can we do to help them cope with that?
Yeah, so we are pharmacists, so we do talk, and we are also immunizers and vaccinators, so we do talk about a lot of these sort of softer strategies because we've been through this as moms, and we think this is sort of what makes us sort of whole people as we coach you through this, but at the end of the day, drugs also help. So giving things like Tylenol or Advil an hour before the appointment or a little bit before the appointment can be helpful, and again, that's a good way to think about preparing. If you take this beforehand and or after, it can really help with the pain. Giving things like Emla patches to sort of numb the area. I've done that with a couple of my kids as well. You can talk to your pharmacist about that. And then there's some other devices, Jen. Do you just want to mention some other sort of non-drug devices that you can use?
Yeah, so there are devices you can purchase that essentially reduce the feeling of the injection itself by creating a stimulus on the skin surrounding the area. Some examples would include the shot blocker device that parents can use and bring to the appointment for their children. So we've talked a lot about what to do. I think it's also important, as we're talking what to do, to talk about what not to do, because making some of those faux pas can definitely start creating that anxiety, and then we're part of that problem. So what as parents should we not be doing when it comes to preparing children for their immunization appointment?
I would say stop using that false language. And I've done it too. I've said, you know what, it really doesn't hurt. And I think both my husband and I have done this as parents. This is easy, it's no big deal. Hey, I'm gonna go first and you watch me. See, I'm smiling, it's no big deal. That actually often creates the opposite effect, right? So if you have that younger child who is vaccine hesitant, don't have the older people and the parents go first in an effort to show who's bravest. That often creates more fear. And I would say that's one of the biggest things in terms of what not to do.
Absolutely. You focus right in on that needle, and that visual really creates some of that anxiety. So yeah, even if you can separate that appointment and not have two nervous children go to get their vaccines together, that can be helpful as well.
Yep, very true. So we've given you a lot in the last few minutes, but I think if we had, as usual, we want to give you Jen and Shelley's top 3 takeaways like we do in every episode. So Jen, what would be the first takeaway you'd start with?
I think the first would be the fact that distraction is really key. I mean, there are lots of ways that you can distract your child and make the whole appointment less so about the needle itself. And if you can do that, you're likely to have a much more calm and smooth appointment.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say that one of my takeaways would be planning and preparing. So when you're thinking about that, using the right language. So Jen talked about language before, and really thinking about the choices that you make in the language that you use. Don't say it doesn't hurt. Don't use the P word like pain. Maybe use the pressure word, which is another P word and maybe a better P word. Don't create some of that anticipatory anxiety by talking about, oh, you don't need to be nervous. And for some kids, maybe it just means surprising them. And that's the planning that you do, and you'll know what's right for your kid. And don't feel bad about that. Sometimes that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Third takeaway, Jeff?
And it would be to create choices for your child and ultimately give them back some empowerment and agency. Sometimes just letting the child choose for dad a sparkly leopard print bandage and apply it themselves gives them that levity and that sense of control back enough to have this be a smoother process.
I didn't know there were sparkly leopard print bandages.
Oh, there are.
Okay.
There are fantastic selections of Band-Aids. You just need to come visit my community pharmacy and we can give you your choice next time you're coming in for an immunization.
Yeah, maybe I'll get my COVID vaccine.
I think that sounds like a great idea, and maybe we can do an episode on that.
Yeah.
Make sure to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications of new video content from us. We have linked a bunch of the information that we've talked about today with some more detail in the description below, so check that out if you're looking for more information around improving the immunization experience for your family. If you have any questions or comments, please be sure to comment below and follow us on social media at RX Unscripted on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Stay tuned for more. Bye.